Buckhorn offers two Citadel IBCs, the Citadel, which is a top discharge model, and the Citadel-v, designed with a bottom discharge valve port. Key container features to note on the Citadel and Citadel-v models include spring-loaded latches that secure lids and ensure the lids stay in place during transport, interlocking side panels for superior strength, base rails that allow for efficient handling on conveyor systems, double hand grips that provide for easy setup and collapse, and true four-way forklift entry points for flexible handling from any orientation. All Citadel IBCs have a standard footprint of 48 inches by 45 inches with a unit height of 46 inches. To remove the lid from a collapsed Citadel container, lift along a 48-inch or long side, then lift a 45-inch or short side and pull the lid off of the container. To erect a Citadel container, place your foot against the base and grab the top corner of a 45-inch side panel and lift until it remains upright. Erect the opposite 45-inch side panel the same way. Using the molded-in ergonomic handles to provide leverage, snap one of the 48-inch side panels in place until it's fully engaged. Repeat the same procedure for the remaining 48-inch side panel. To place the lid on an erect Citadel container, align the 48-inch side of the lid to the corresponding side of the container. After it's aligned properly, push down on the lid until the spring latches automatically snap into position. To lock a Citadel lid, ensure that all four sides are seated on the container and that the spring latches have snapped into position. Then, on each 45-inch side, slide the lid bolts closed to fully lock the lid in place. To unlock a Citadel lid, first slide the lid bolts to the open position on opposite sides of the container. Then disengage the spring latches on one side of the container by pulling them open toward the center of the lid with your index fingers. While maintaining pressure on the spring latches, push up on the lid with your thumbs. Repeat these steps on the opposite side of the lid until it moves freely on all four sides. Then remove the lid from the container. To begin collapsing Citadel containers, remove the lid by sliding open all four lid bolts. To disengage the spring latches, simply pull them open toward the center of the lid with your index fingers. While maintaining pressure on the spring latches, push up on the lid with your thumbs. Repeat these steps on the opposite side of the lid until it moves freely on all four sides. Then remove the lid from the container. Grasp the side panel latches on one of the 48-inch side panels and pull them toward the center. With the side panel released from the corner locks, drop it into the interior of the container. Repeat the same step on the opposite side. Look for the side panel marked Fold Last and drop the opposite panel first. Then fold down the final panel. A forklift-compatible base on all Citadel and Citadel-v containers allows efficient and secure handling from all four sides. Keep in mind that the recommended fork tine length is 42 inches with a maximum of 45 inches. When handling Citadel containers with a forklift, always use safe handling procedures. Use the appropriate 45-inch fork length and height, or spearing damage may occur. When stacking containers, incorrect fork tine length can also cause stacked containers to collapse if fork tines protruding past the 45-inch recommended length hit stacked rows. Do not tip fork tines up when entering the container base, or short fork or tip the container. Always lift the container above the ground before moving. Never push or slide the container across the ground, as this will result in unnecessary wear or damage to the base rails. When backing near other containers, pay close attention to adjacent containers, or damage or personal injury may occur. Whether full or collapsed, Citadel containers must be stacked with the same sides in alignment. To create secure stacks, ensure that the base of the top container interlocks with the lid of the container below it. For collapsed containers, make sure the container base seats properly on the collapsed container below it. When stacking full or empty containers, keep in mind the following general specifications depending on your application. In railcars, full Citadel containers can be stacked 2 high, while collapsed containers can be stacked up to 8 high. Note that Citadel-v containers cannot be transported by rail since they are not rail certified. Based on a 53-foot trailer, full containers can be stacked 2 high, while collapsed containers can be stacked up to 7 high. Note that when containers are full, the trailer will probably weigh out before the allowable space is cubed out. For outdoor or warehouse storage, full Citadel containers can be stacked up to 5 high, full Citadel-v containers can be stacked up to 3 high, and both Citadel and Citadel-v collapsed containers can be stacked as high as a forklift will safely permit. Lids must be stacked separately from the containers. Lids can be stacked and nested upside down on top of a collapsed container, so a complete stack of lids can be easily moved using a forklift. Lids can be stacked as high as a forklift will safely permit. Never stack full or collapsed containers on top of a lid or stack of lids. When loading the containers in rail cars, make sure that the 48-inch or long side faces the center void. Doorway stacks and the 4 stacks by the doorway areas are the most critical when loading the containers. When stacking the containers, make sure that the base of the container being loaded is properly aligned on the lid of the container below it to ensure safe stacks. Be careful when maneuvering in narrow spaces and when backing near other containers. As the rows of containers in the railcar are created, place Palcor drop fillers in the center void. Before the doorway stacks are loaded, apply 2 layers of Palcor bulkhead on each end of 2 parallel rows. Then apply 1 layer of Palcor bulkhead on each end of the opposite rows. Once the doorway stacks are loaded, insert a corrugated sheet on each side of the 2 doorway stacks. Then insert 1 airbag each between the corrugated sheets and inflate the airbags to 6 to 8 psi. Before unloading, deflate the airbags using a sharp blade or utility knife. Unload the outside stacks in the doorway area. Remove the dunnage securing the inside row of stacks behind the door and unload the containers. Then remove the dunnage used for prevention of door-to-door movement of the remaining containers. Be careful when maneuvering the forklift to unload the first containers by the door. Container panels can be dented if the forklift is reversed carelessly. To lift the containers, carefully enter the fork tines to avoid damage to the feet or base of the container. Unloaded Citadel containers can be stacked up to 5 high and stored before being moved to a discharge area. For return loading, collapsed Citadel containers can be stacked up to 8 high depending on the height of the rail car. Lids must be stacked separately from the containers. Lids can be stacked and nested upside down on top of a collapsed container, so a complete stack of lids can be easily moved using a forklift. Lids can be stacked as high as a forklift will safely permit. Never stack full or collapsed containers on top of a lid or stack of lids. When loading the collapsed containers in rail cars, make sure that the 45-inch or short side faces the sides of the rail car. When stacking the containers, make sure that the feet of the container being loaded are interlocked with the container below to ensure safe stacks. Use extra caution when stacking doorway columns because there is very little room to maneuver the forklift. Do not spear or spin the container with the forklift, or damage to the container may occur. Do not load any damaged containers. Damaged containers should be properly labeled and sent for repair. Remove the doorway stacks first. Then finish unloading the remaining containers. Begin loading Citadel containers at the bulkhead of the trailer and use standard forklift loading procedures. Based on a 53-foot trailer, the trailer will hold 56 containers loaded in 2 layers, with the 48-inch or long side stacked against the trailer bulkhead. Note that containers can weigh up to 3,300 pounds each, and the trailer may weigh out before it's fully loaded. Collapsed Citadel containers are loaded with the 48-inch or long side facing the trailer bulkhead. A 53-foot trailer will accommodate 172 collapsed containers and 172 lids. The initial 2 rows of containers will contain 7 layers, each with 24 containers, for a total of 168 collapsed containers. The remaining 4 collapsed containers, to be loaded at the rear of the trailer, will serve as foundations for the stacked lids. 3 of the collapsed containers will each hold a stack of 50 lids nested upside down. The 4th collapsed container will hold 22 lids nested upside down for a total lid count of 172 lids. Remember to never stack full or collapsed containers on top of a lid or stack of lids. Buckhorn offers the following accessories for its Citadel and Citadel-v IBCs, including liner bags, filling bridges to assist with filling liner bags, and tamper-evident security ties. Liner bags are available for Citadel and Citadel-v containers from a variety of suppliers. Contact your Buckhorn representative for complete details and assistance with liner bags and accessories. Also, filling bridges vary in style and design. Again, contact your Buckhorn representative for details and assistance. In addition, tamper-evident security ties are available that can be used with the lid to help deter tampering with container contents. Citadel and Citadel-v can accommodate both form-fit and pillow-style liners. Make sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions for proper placement of the liner bag in the container. Lower the liner bag into the container with the top fitment facing up. Lay the filling bridge across the sidewalls on the container. Pull back on the spring-loaded frame on the filling bridge and insert the top fitment into the other half of the frame. Note that other styles of filling bridges are available and may not feature a spring-loaded frame. Release the handle on the frame so that the filling bridge is now secured around the top fitment. For Citadel-v only, also make sure that the bottom fitment on its liner bag is turned toward the bottom discharge fitment port. Open the fitment port cover, reach through the port, and pull the bottom fitment into position. Secure the bottom fitment with Citadel-v's convenient built-in sliding fitment gate. Remove the top fitment cover. The liner bag is now ready for filling. To replace the Citadel-v runner assembly, remove all 18 speed screws with a cordless drill and a number 40 Torx extended length bit or a Torx screwdriver. With all speed screws removed, lift the damaged runner assembly off of the container. Replace the damaged runner assembly and tighten all 18 speed screws. Do not over-tighten the speed screws or the molded threads in the base will be damaged. To replace a Citadel side or end panel, make sure the damaged panel is lying in a collapsed position. Using a heavy-duty hammer and a sharp chisel, break the hinges to free the panel from the base. Remove the damaged panel and any broken pieces. Line up the replacement panel hinges to the proper slots in the base. Using both hands, grab the side handles and lift the hinges up to align the panel bottom with the top of each slot in the base. Pull back firmly with a sharp blow to lock the hinges in place. Push down firmly on the base of the new panel to lock the hinges in place. Pull up on the panel to check the range of motion and ensure that the panel hinges are connected to the Citadel base. To replace a side panel with latches, begin by driving the long hinge pin out of its channel. When the end of the pin clears the opposite side, grasp it with pliers or your hand and remove it completely. Lift the damaged side panel off of the container and remove it. Line up the new side panel and let the container sides hold the new panel in place while the hinge pin is driven into position. To replace an end panel with no latches, remove the two short hinge pins. Begin by driving each pin out of its channel. When the end of each pin clears the opposite side, grasp the pin with pliers or your hand and remove it completely. When the pins are removed, grasp the end panel and tip it away from you and lift it off the base. To reinstall the panel, reverse the process. Insert a replacement panel and slide the short hinge pins back into position. Tap the pins until they're completely seated into the channel. First, release the locking tabs inside the latch pocket. Using a flathead screwdriver, insert it into each tab on the side panel latch and pull it out. Insert the new latch into the latch pocket and snap it into place. Using the screwdriver, firmly seat the tabs on the new latch. For further information about Buckhorn's Citadel and Citadel-v IBCs, contact your Buckhorn sales representative for assistance by calling toll-free in the U.S. at 800-543-4454 or by fax at 513-831-5474 or email us at sales@buckhorninc.com. In Canada, call us toll-free at 800-461-7579 or by fax at 905-791-9942 or email us at sales@buckhorncanada.com. Thank you for watching and learning more about good handling practices for Buckhorn's Citadel IBCs.